Well, you joined me down at my Kent Syndicate, Chilston Stour. I'm down here for 24 hours. The lads from Elevate have asked me to sort of give you a bit of a down low on what I've been up to this year since I've been using the bait. I got on the bait sort of just after Christmas this year, around about January time. Went straight using the chorizo. Proper bit of meat it is, chorizo. I love that style of bait. I've hit the ground running with it. As I was coming out the winter, I've had a few good fish on here, on the lake, sort of up to sort of mid-30s. And sort of coming early into the spring, sort of April time, I was really lucky enough to be invited on a trip out to Euro Aqua by Stuart, which I was mega excited about. It's something I've never done before. I've sort of fished around Europe, France and everywhere like that, but going out to sort of somewhere like Euro Aqua was completely sort of different for me. We got out there, it was in April time, and yeah, it was a mega trip. The lake weren't fishing great when we got out there, to be fair. A few of the lads were struggling, but I sort of took lead of some of the other guys out there, sort of how to fish the lake. Struggled for the first few days, had a couple of fish, but ended up sort of going against the grain a little bit and bringing my own sort of angling into that trip, and I sort of found a little margin spot, which ain't often done out there. Yeah, put a rod down, probably about sort of 50 wraps out, but along this margin to this little bay to my right. Single rod down there, couple of handfuls of chorizo, just on a single wafter. The next few days on that rod was mega. It was on that one rod down that margin, it just went off. During the day, the rod was out there an hour, hour and a half each time, and it was just tearing off. It was brilliant. Using minimal bait compared to what a lot of people do out at Euro Aqua. You know, it's a mega bait water. But it just goes to show that the power of that chorizo. I mean, on that particular trip, I was literally using like 2 handfuls of bait down on this little margin spot, and it was just flying every time. I had loads of fish up to sort of like mid-50 off of it. Really did want a big one. The European PB I'd had for the last sort of 10 years, which was 58, 59 pounds from a lake down in France. So, because obviously the lake, with it being Euro Aqua, it's absolutely full of big ones, so I was desperate to get one of these big girls. And yeah, on the last morning, very last morning, we was all packed down with Stu, and we were sort of sitting there waiting to sort of like bring the rods in. We give it another half hour, and believe it or not, that rod just tore off one last time, and I couldn't believe it was a 72 pound common. I was absolutely ecstatic with it. It was a brilliant way to end the session, and yeah, just testament to that bait of what it did on that trip down that margin with that one rod was absolutely outstanding. Yeah, then shortly after that, got back to the UK, carried on down here, getting amongst loads of fish, like, you know, loads up sort of like upper 30, had a couple of low 40s, and then it was probably around June sort of time, I was fishing a swim called the Left Out Halfway Tree, which is just opposite to where I'm fishing now. That particular session, it was, the lake weren't fishing great, but I sort of went in for a big baiting approach. I actually put about 10 kilo bait out, chorizo that had been soaked, bit of corn, bit of pellet and stuff, which I normally fish over. And yeah, it was a bit of a struggle for 48 hours. I didn't really have much action, and again, last knock-ins, and I had another PB, an English PB this time, which was, my previous PB was 44 pound, which was like 8 years previous. This one was a big old male called Drop Scale, and he went just under 46. So yeah, I was, since using the bait this year alone, that was a European PB plus an English PB, which yeah, again, was absolutely mega. And yeah, carried on over the next sort of like few weeks on here, getting amongst them, had a few really good sessions. Then I had another trip coming up, which was in August this year, which was about 3/4 way down into France, Limoges sort of area. Really looking forward to this trip. I'd been out there once before the previous year, and I'd had like 26 fish up to sort of like upper 50s. But obviously this year I was full of confidence with the new bait and whatnot. I went out there, it's a massive, again, really big bait water. So I went out with the intentions, I took a lot of bait out of me. I took nearly 100 kg of the chorizo, 100, 150 kg of pellet out there. Got out there, managed to get the same swim as I got the previous year. And yeah, it just went off. I only fished, it was mega hot out there, so I only fished the night. So I was baiting through the hours, through the daytime hours, 3 times a day. I was fishing this like far margin, fishing about 26, 27 wraps, all 3 rods along this down wall. And yeah, I was putting the rods out about 8 o'clock in the evening and bringing them out in about 9 in the morning, but I was averaging 5 or 6 fish a night. It was one of the best sessions I've ever had, to be honest. I had the smallest fish for the week was 32 pounds, 28 takes, 28 fish landed, all on the Tritzo, 4 60s. And then second to last day we was there, I had a fish known as the Swirly Common, which was the biggest fish in the lake. And my God, it was a mega fish. It was 79 pounds. And it was my third PB of the year, plus my second European PB of the year, just under 80 pounds. Yeah, I was ecstatic with it. It's been an absolutely brilliant year. This session, it's tough. The lake's really not fishing well at the minute, so obviously when the guys come down on this session, I did say, you know, it might be a struggle to get the fish, but we're here, we're trying. It's only done in the last sort of like week, it's only done sort of a very small handful of bites. I actually did last night over a swim called the Left Land Oaks. There was fish out in front of me, but you know, I just weren't feeling it. It was quite barren out there. I've seen a few fish show out to my left where I'm fishing now. There's still quite a lot of weed in this swim where I'm fishing, so I feel a lot more confident over it. I've been over a couple of hours now. Got plenty of bait out there on one spot particular. The other 2 spots I've gone a little bit lighter. But yeah, I'm feeling lightly confident we might get one on this session. Let's keep our fingers crossed and hope we do. Right, I'm just going to run through my bait mix that I use, what I've been using this year. I do like to keep things as simple as I can. My 3 main things: spicy Tritzo boilies in 15mm. I always like to pre-soak my baits prior to the session. I'll do that at home, cut the key in a bucket, 2-3 key, depending on how long you're going to be fishing for. Boiling hot water over it. I soak them sort of like, I like to soak them for about 48 hours prior to the session. Loads of the Tritzo liquid over the top. Let them soak in that. It really takes on that extra liquid, softens the baits up nicely. I've done it for years. Yeah, you know, a lot of people used to do it with washed out baits and stuff, same sort of process, but I just like to do it in my fishing. Elevates do it in a flake form, so when you crush your own baits up, which there's a lot of different crushers out there on the market, sometimes you can get it really fine, but this is almost like slice, so it's like loads of like slices the boiling right up, which I really like. Yeah, good sort of like few scoops of that in with your bait mix, and then the pellet, matching Tritzo pellet, good few scoops of that. Give it a good old mix up. Bit of extra, obviously, when I've soaked the baits as well, the 15mm boilies, some of that juice, which is obviously what they've been soaking in, that will go in with the mix as well. Give it a good old stir up. And then that good old green giant. I've used it for years. I'll always use it in my mixes. You know, it's just one of them good old faithful baits that it's always nice to have. Gives it a bit of colour out there. My mix is normally sort of quite a dark mix, especially with the Tritzo and the pellet. So it gives a little bit of a flick out there of colour. Which new in the range, which I will point on, are these, which is the sweet corn pillars. Again, because I use corn in my mix, these are brilliant. I've got 100% faith in that mix. I'll continue using it and continue doing the same. Well, as you can see, the night's now drawing in. The light's fading quick. It's that time of year, it gets darker earlier now. But I feel hopeful, something might happen tonight. I'm happy with the spots I've got out there. I've got a bit of bait out there. I've seen a couple of little signs of fish sort of in and around the area, should I say. Yeah, I think something might happen tonight, or maybe first thing in the morning. That's sort of like the typical bite time on here is early, sort of any time between sort of 5 AM up to about sort of 8:30. Yeah, let's just keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully I'll be able to report back with a nice scaly mirror or common during the night or first thing in the morning. But like I say, nothing's happened a lot today, but I'm happy with the spots and let's see what happens. Well, I've given it that last few hours today and it certainly paid off. The lake's not been fishing great like I touched on earlier, but I've persisted on the spots with the bait mix that I showed you. And right at last knockings, my left hand rod's burst into life, going 32.5. I'll take any bite at the minute when times are hard, but over the moon with him. Let's get him back, get packed up, and get home and get freshened up. After putting that common back, I was supposed to be going home, but the heavens opened up and it started absolutely chucking it down. So I thought I'd give it another hour or something, trying to sit it out, waiting for the storm to go over, and put that rod back out, and yeah, it went again. And look at that, 32.8, made up with that one. Persistence paid off, the bait worked. The spot come good in the end. I'm going to get this one back. Like I said before, I really must get home now.